What up, it's your man Jay running, holding it down. It's Knicks Talk. You know, I got to talk about my New York Knicks, and we almost lost one yesterday. It's like we be playing with our food because we had them the whole game. But I'm not going to lie. Atlanta Hawks, they play very hard. They do not give up. You might think they out, and they like, nah, we ain't. You know, Trace Young started off real slow. I think he was like 2 for 10, and we started off pretty well. My guy Jalen Brunson started great, and then Karl Anthony Towns. By that second quarter, he took over the game. He ended with 44 points, and we only won by 1 point in overtime, 149 to 148. We recently just beat the Indiana Pacers. Like I said, the teams we supposed to beat, we do beat, but sometimes we just play around. That first quarter, it was 29 to 28 New York. Second quarter, it was 31 to 30 Atlanta. Fourth quarter, that was a big quarter for us, 41 to 36 New York. And then that fourth quarter, it was 36-33, which led us into overtime. Literally, Atlanta had 11 and we had 12, won by 1 point. A great game. Trae Young ended with 38 points, but he wasn't really scoring that well in the first half, and he kind of took over in the fourth quarter. He kind of willed his team to try to win, but it didn't happen. Like I said, I felt like those are one of those games that should have been pretty much out of the way. We didn't really have nothing to worry about, but because we was playing around and we had a couple of turnovers late. One, Karl Anthony Towns, he tried to inbounds to Mikal Bridges, and it was a turnover under the basket to where they got a score. It was a sloppy game for the Knicks, them last two quarters, which was the fourth in overtime. Jalen Brunson took over. He had a game-winning shot, but Atlanta still had an opportunity to win. Trae tried to drive. He was partially blocked, but the ball came out. Three-pointer went up, but they missed a three-point shot. So we kind of snuck away with that victory. And like I said, Trae Young had 38 points. He was the only one that really was scoring, but his teammates, they had a lot of defense. Deshaun played well. He had like two key turnovers against Jalen Brunson late. He had 23 points. And other than that, there was a few players on the Hawks that did, pretty decent. But Trae really dominated and took over. Actually, they started, cutting down the lead when he was on the bench. Josh Hart, he balled 18 points in 46 minutes. He did had a couple of crucial turnovers. I don't know. Fouls sometimes don't be called. I know I'll be a big thing about the carrying, man. I seen Trae do that. Like when you do this and then you go that to me just has to be called. But that was no excuse. I don't think that would have affected the game in any way. But Josh did play very well. Precious Achiuwa, he was balling. He had 26 points in 42 minutes, 8 rebounds. He had some timely scoring. And Karl Anthony Towns, I felt like he could have beat Melo's record, which is the Garden's record of 62 points, at least from a New York Knicks side. But Karl Anthony Towns ended with 44. Second quarter, third quarter, he played very well. Going into the fourth, he kind of slowed down. And that's when Jalen took back over. And I believe he only scored 4 points in overtime. Mikal Bridges, he only had 11. I always say this, he has to have at least 18 points. But he played pretty well on defense. Jalen Brunson ended with 36 points. So the scoring wasn't too bad. The bench scoring wasn't great. Cameron Payne, he had 10 points. And that was it. Yeah. Landry only had 4 points, and that was the base of our bench scoring. Where's the rest of the bench at? Why they didn't play Harpanthi? I think that's his name. Yeah, he did. He played 2 minutes, but normally they play him a little more than that. So he didn't really get no burn, especially being that we don't really have a backup center. So I'm not sure why. Miles Bridges, a.k.a. Deuce, only had 8 minutes. I don't think he got hurt during that game. But we really didn't have a lot of bench scoring. Everything was literally from the starters, and all of the starters played over 40 minutes. I will say this, man, and I don't want to say this because as a former player, a person that played, you love to play. You want to play. You want to be on the floor, but they are playing too many minutes on a consistent basis. And as we can see, and I'm not saying we was tied against Boston because Boston just blew us out. Actually, we held it pretty close the first 2-3 quarters, and then they increased the lead dramatically. But to stick with a team like that, we have to be on point from beginning to end. We had a little more fight than the opener, but right now we're just not looking great. We're looking good against the teams we're supposed to beat. And we are looking good against some of the top teams in the league. But the team that we have to beat, we didn't look good. All right. We only played them twice. We have 2 more games against them. And I believe it's in Boston, maybe 3, because there's a few teams. Like I know we already played Atlanta Hawks 4 times and it's tied. And we got 1 more game in Atlanta. So maybe it's like that with Boston as well. But we have to play better. Like right now, it doesn't look great. I do see that Mitchell Robinson has been playing in practice and a little bit of contact he's been doing. So hopefully he will be returning real soon. Obviously, OG Anunoby, he's been out for a few games, which is also a good sign because him not being in there and we still playing pretty well is great. So I would say we have a little bit of depth. We need a couple of people off the bench. I feel like TJ, he's in the G League. I think he needs to come out of the G League because he's been balling in the G League. He played NBA ball, so he's not somebody that's new or rusty. And I think he will give us some really, really good scoring off the bench. Cameron Payne has been doing good. He's been pretty consistent of late, and that's what I like. And I feel like Tom Thibodeau has been playing him a lot better because I know one game he was hot. And then the second half came, and he didn't play him till like the 4th or towards the end of the 3rd quarter. By then, he's cold, and we need all of them scoring. Like, we don't need JB to have him to feel like he has to do it all 24/7. So, overall, it was a really, really good game. We led the game, most of it, from 6 to 12 points. Atlanta Hawks, they came back in the 4th. I believe they took the lead in overtime. But we was able to get that back with that final shot by JB, and he knocked it down to get us that 149 victory over the Atlanta Hawks, who had 148. But we can't be having close games like that when it don't need to be, and we can't be playing with our food, all right? We can't be eating and then dropping, eating and dropping. We got to eat. We got to eat, be full, and keep it moving, and we got to play hungry from night in and night out. And I think that was probably the biggest takeaway from that last game. We was playing with the food. We was playing good. We was feeling ourselves. Carlton Towns was doing his thing. Jalen was doing his thing. Josh was doing his thing. And we like, all right, cool, we got this. And we played around with it too long. We didn't increase the lead when we should have, our opportunities that we had. And we can't do that. And we definitely can't do that against the big dogs, all right? The boy Jay running, holding it down. Knicks Talks, the host of Undrafted Player, ER Crew, and Knicks Talk right here, baby. It's the Undrafted channel. One time to the producer of the show, the Click, TOV Sports, baby. You know what it is. And make sure you follow me on all social media platforms by searching JAERUNIT. Jay Run It, who run it? Jay Run It. Let's go. I'll see y'all next time.